Hello and welcome to the Arsenal Way, back again with you guys for another episode of our Arsenal Agenda series, joining you Monday to Friday at 10 a.m. UK time. I'm joined by Chris. How you doing, mate? You good? You well?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you, TC. Feeling the heat a bit more this morning. But apart from that, all good. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Not bad. Surviving and keeping cool as much as possible. Again, apologies if you can hear any fans in the background, but it's very necessary indeed. Before we crack on with today's topics, the channel has been popping with videos, which you need to make sure that you're checking out. Of course, we've got interviews with the likes of Gabriel Jesus, Mikel Arteta, the open training session as well. Make sure if you haven't already gone back and had a look at the videos across the channel that you go and do that. We've still got plenty more as well to come. The likes of Emil Smith-Rowe, Aaron Ramsdale, Gilberto Silva, and of course the interview with the now what is being described as the visionary of the away Arsenal kit, Aston Mack. We've got an interview up with him on the channel as well. So there's plenty to come. Make sure you're subscribed and turn those notifications on so you never miss a show. But we're going to kick off, of course. We talked about the away kit, and it's for me probably my favourite kit of living memory. Chris, I'm going as far as to say that I love it. It's great.
It is very nice. I mean, I know this time yesterday you were asking if I was going to get it, and I did give in. And I got a certain Gabriel Jesus 9 on the back, no shame whatsoever. It was a really successful launch. I think this morning it's come out that they've raised over £1 million in sales, the most successful kit launch for Arsenal, at least for the away kit. So really, really good. I'm not surprised really, considering obviously how well it went down amongst supporters. I think off the top of my head as well, one of my favourites and one of the best that Adidas and Arsenal have produced. Obviously, I mean, I like the one from last season actually, which was inspired by the sort of the lightning strip. I thought that was quite nice. Certainly I think probably the best, as you say, TC, off the top of my head, and certainly in my lifetime.
Yeah, indeed. Good morning, everybody joining us in the chat box. Marcus Bailey is away on holiday at the moment. I don't know if his holiday involves trying to strike up a deal with Awar, but I wouldn't put it past him. But no, we hope he's having a fantastic time on his break away. Good morning to Samuel and V-Dub and CJ UK and Martin and Graham. Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. And thank you, everybody that tuned in and watched our interview yesterday with Simon Barkowski, who talked all about Oleksandr Zinchenko, who, thankfully, after doing that interview, we've now seen pretty much the confirmation that everything has been agreed at this stage. Not only just with City, but with the player as well. Agreement over a 4-year contract, scope for a potential year on top of that as well, which would take him through to 29, 30 years of age, so the prime years of his career contracted at Arsenal. Chris, this seems to be a matter of time now until this one is announced. It's a big, big deal for the Gunners.
It is, and I think it's a great bit of business, around £30 million for Zinchenko's services. A great deal for a very, very good player that is going to come in incredibly handy for us. He's versatile, Premier League proven, a hard worker, and again, I think having that connection and relationship already established with Arteta, even with Gabriel Jesus, obviously, who's just left City as well. There's a great understanding there, and it will make things a lot easier for him. So really, really pleased. I know there's been a few suggestions this morning that Zinchenko's sort of rethinking the decision, but I understand that that's not the case. He's agreed to a move. Everything's agreed between the club and the player, and as you say, TC, it's now just a matter of time before this deal goes through, and I expect him to become an Arsenal player in the next few days. Obviously, it's helpful that Arsenal and City are now both out in America. You would think that they hopefully arrange a medical out there just to make things a lot easier. So we'll have to wait and see what the club decide on. But really, really positive. And it was good to see the club move swiftly on from Lisandro Martinez. Obviously, it was widely reported that he was a priority target for us. But in the end, with the figures that have since come out surrounding that deal, I'm actually quite glad Arsenal didn't go for it. And in many aspects, you could argue that Zinchenko is a better player and certainly a more reliable player. To start off with, because he hasn't got to adapt to the Premier League. He's experienced in the country. He knows the demands that are set and what to expect. And like I said, he already knows a few players in this Arsenal team. So again, that's a big plus for us. So yeah, really happy with it. Obviously, he'll provide much needed versatility, support and depth, especially in that left back position. We know obviously Kieran Tierney struggled with injury. Nuno Tavares could yet leave on loan, and an interesting option to use in midfield as well. I remember that game between Scotland and Ukraine the other month, and Zinchenko was unbelievable. He was on top of his game. One of the best solo performances I've seen in a very long time. He was man of the match, and he made everything look easy. It was by far the standout, and if he can produce performances like that, moments like that for Arsenal, then we've got a very, very special player on our hands. You're on mute again, buddy. 3 days in a row, TC.
3 days? That's a joke. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. I'm never going to put myself on mute again. Yeah, look, I think Zinchenko's going to be a player that most people overlook. I really do think that, outside of Arsenal, I think most people are going to overlook this deal for the Gunners. This is a very, very astute piece of business. The fact that they got this done for less than half the price that Lisandro Martinez is going for Manchester United, that was a deal that, yesterday we were learning about the ideas that Arsenal simply weren't willing to match the asking price of Ajax, and Man United have ended up paying a huge figure for a player that is going to have to adjust to the Premier League, of course. And despite him being and having a lot of the characteristics I wanted to see at Arsenal, I never, ever wanted to go to that level of figure for him. And I think that Arsenal managed to get a player that could even potentially give Arsenal more, because Martinez was seen as a player that would come in as a left-back competition for Tierney. Zinchenko has played a lot more at left-back than Martinez has, and of course has played in midfield a lot more than Martinez has, and I think that will absolutely add plenty more to the team next season. Afsar saying, who's the better defender out of Tierney and Zinchenko? I would lean more towards Tierney right now. I think Zinchenko is offering a lot going forwards, but what he can offer, I think he's going to compete with Tierney, like for like. I don't think it's a case of one being a backup to the other. I think these are two players that can absolutely start for Arsenal and improve and upgrade on what we've currently got already as well. So really happy about this potential deal. But Chris, the question is next. Who is next? Because Arsenal have still got business they want to do. Mikel Arteta said that, there's stuff that still wants to be done and that they're not finished. Where do you think the next step of Arsenal's window goes?
I think it's hugely dependent on outgoings now, TC. I know it's an easy thing to say, and we always sort of tend to say it. Supporters are, we're not going to see this guy join unless someone leaves and etc. But I just get that feeling now. That's 5 new players through the door if obviously Zinchenko joins, and there has been a slight worrying lack of movement on outgoings. So I wouldn't be surprised, genuinely. Obviously, this is just, at this moment in time, things can change quickly, of course. But at this moment in time, I wouldn't be surprised if the 5 new signings that we've brought in, or at least a few of them, are the ones that we have and the only ones we have going into that game against Palace. But that's just the sort of the feeling that I have, because we've been linked with a winger. I suppose the only thing that gives me hope is, you look back at that pursuit for Rafinha. It looked as if we were going in for him regardless of what was going to happen with, Nicola Pepe, for example. But then again, it was a unique opportunity. It was a top player available on the market. Leeds was sort of resound to letting him go and losing him. So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But that's sort of the feeling I get at the moment, unless there's any sort of movement that develops quickly in terms of outgoings. I think Arsenal are maybe just going to play it cool now for a little while, take their time, not rush into any decisions. They've got much needed support and competition for left back and central midfield in Zinchenko, got the star striker in Jesus, who's going to be the main man for us, and Fabio Vieira again. He can provide support on the right hand side out wide in that number 10 role, and also he can fill in central midfield. So I think Arsenal will be satisfied to a certain extent of what they've done already, and I think they'll be happy overall with the players that they have available going into that game against Palace. Obviously, we've got William Saliba here, but now as well that always helps. A few players coming back from injury that we should see, starting to participate in training and games over the next week. So we're in a much better position than where we were, coming out of last season, for example. There's absolutely still work to be done, and I think I would still really like to see a new central midfielder and a right winger come in. But considering what Arsenal have managed to do already, and the situation with outgoings at the minute, it wouldn't surprise me if Arsenal maybe just take a step back, evaluate the options, and then go again, later down the line. Obviously, I'd love to be proven wrong. I like a surprise. I wouldn't mind if we wrap up Tielemans or a new winger very, very quickly. But, I can just see Arsenal playing safe for now.
Yeah, look, I think that Arsenal will try and sign players they think are going to upgrade only. They aren't interested in bringing in players that are going to be backups this summer. The players that we're bringing in, Matt Turner has been brought in to compete with Aaron Ramsdale. Marquinhos is being brought in to compete with the senior wingers. That's why he's been given a senior pathway, and obviously he's gone on the US tour as well. Gabriel Jesus obviously comes in and starts. Vieira is being brought in to compete with Ødegaard and Smith Rowe and the wide players as well. Zinchenko is being brought in to compete with Tierney and Xhaka in that midfield and left back roles. So, any signing that we make from now has to be with the ideal of getting into that starting 11, improving on what we've already got. Be that Tielemans, be that a Paquetá, these are players that certainly would do that as well. That is what Arsenal have needed to do for a very, very long time. And Arsenal, over the last 2 summer transfer windows, and to a lesser extent in 2020 of Gabriel and Partey, have brought in players that are designed to compete, strengthen, and push Arsenal on towards, that next level, which is qualifying for the Champions League first, but obviously pushing towards wanting what we want, which is to compete for titles and Champions League trophies as well. Moving forwards to the last topic of the show, which is the idea of around switching things up. We're going to tackle some of your questions, of course, in a second as well, guys. But the last thing I want to ask about was the idea, Chris, of a back three. Because in pre-season, we've seen this used by Arteta a number of times now. And Arsenal now have 3 very good centre-backs. Saliba, Gabriel and White are at the club, not to mention holding a Marie that's still here as potential cover. But those 3 in particular, and Tomiyasu, who can also play in, I think, a back 3 quite comfortably. Kieran Tierney has played in the left side of a back 3 comfortably as well. Do you think it is something that Arteta, you think, is open to use competitively?
Yeah, I do, and especially for those reasons you just mentioned there. The options that he has at his disposal now. It makes it very, very possible, and well, I mean, it makes it very, very strong as well. I mean, we're lucky. I know the back line always sort of used to be the issue for us. Well, certainly over the last few years, we were great going forward, playing nice, fluid football. Had some plays, in midfield and in attack that would always cause problems for the opposition. But there's been times where we've maybe had some players in that back line where it was just sort of waiting for and calling for disaster at the back. But it's been improved upon drastically so, and you must admit that now that defence is looking very solid. Of course, you've always got that concern in the back of your mind with injuries and absentees. We've mentioned Kieran Tierney and his injury troubles. He has been a big miss when he's been out of the side. Exactly the same can be said about Tomiyasu. But if those players stay fit, you've got versatile options there that can operate in a number of positions. You mentioned it. Tierney can play at left-sided centre-back, can play as a left wing back. Tomiyasu can also fill in the central position if he needs to. I mean, the options that Arteta has at his disposal now make that very, very possible. And like I say, make it very solid. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that system used. Of course, it always usually depends on the opposition you go up against and how they operate and how they set up. But the fact that we have used it in pre-season already, on top of the options that we now have that make it very possible, it's all but confirmation to me that Arteta will look to use it for the upcoming season. And it's worked, hasn't it, before? Most notably, I know just off the top of my head. Obviously, I know there's other examples, but we went up against Chelsea that time away. It worked very well, and the team have proven that they can operate in that setup, because it does add more security to the back line, but they knew how to still create problems and play fluid attacking football when they were in possession. So excited to see how it can work out, especially if everyone's fit and available. And obviously you mentioned William Saliba there, sort of a new name. Well, not a new name, but still kind of a new name for us. Really interesting to see how he gets on as well in different systems, etc. So I expect Arteta to use it, and we'll look forward to see how he gets on with it with all those names available.
Yeah, we will. We will indeed. I think that it's an option for Arsenal to use against teams, specifically like at Anfield, Manchester City, away at these big sides. I think you can go to a back three. Chelsea in particular, who play in a back three at Tuchel, matching them up. Spurs playing a back three, potentially matching that system up will give you better coverage of dealing with the wing backs and the wingers at the same time. I think it's options that Arsenal are looking for. When we played a back four at Spurs last season, it really came undone, with the overlapping of Sessegnon and Son and Kulusevski on the other side with Emerson. It really did mess Arsenal up in that game, and Holding was drawn out of position so many times and eventually got sent off for being a little bit silly, or rather a lot silly with Son. So I think that it's something that Arteta wants to be more malleable. He wants to be able to be more open to change. So we'll see, indeed, if that happens next season, and if we choose to go with a system like that. Let's wait and see what happens. We're going to finish today's show with a few of your questions from the chat box. We're going to kick off. We're trying to go through these as quick as possible. Joe just simply asking, what font did I get on the back? I went with the Arsenal font. Did you go with the Arsenal font as well, Chris? Or
I went with the Arsenal font, the gold one. I thought it contemplated the top very nicely, so that's what I went for.
I do try and avoid the Premier League font. I just don't think it suits. I've got the Arsenal font on the home kit as well, so it's got to be that for me. Samuel asking, what is going to be the right position for Zinchenko at Arsenal? I don't think there is a right or wrong answer to this. I think he is that good that he can play both at left back and in central midfield. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. He's shown on many occasions at Manchester City or even for Ukraine, of course, that he can play in both positions, both at left back and central midfield. Some may argue that it's like you get the best out of him in more of an attacking role. And again, I brought up obviously that performance against Scotland a month or so ago, and he was unplayable. He was absolutely fantastic. But yet again, in the Premier League, if he needs to play at left back, then he can do the job really well. He's solid, he's reliable, and I suppose the experience he's racked up in both positions. I suppose it's just part of the norm for him now. So like you say, TC, no right or wrong there, I don't think.
Indeed. Let's go to Maria, who says, what do you think about the Leroy Sané links that we're seeing? In all honesty, I don't think there's anything to them. There's been no indication that this is something that Arsenal, to me, are looking at, that they may have done earlier in the window. I think Ben Jacobs from CBS suggested that earlier in the window he was considered, but as of right now, I don't see there's anything in it. I think it's just opportunistic, considering Serge Gnabry's staying and Mane's come in, that link makes sense to come forward. And VW asking about the links with a supposed bid for Milinkovic-Savic, supposedly made those links from Italy. We've been burned by Italian links a lot this summer. The Aaron Hickey deal in particular strikes strongly with that, saying he was supposedly close, but Arsenal never made a bid for Aaron Hickey. So how you could technically be close, I don't know. So I would also take that with a rather large pinch of salt. Graham says, TC and Chris, who would be your preference if we signed a new winger and another central midfielder in terms of the players that are affordable and would realistically join Arsenal at this current time?
Good question. Obviously, there's lots of names out there. I've always, as you know, TC, and as the viewers will know, I've sort of lent more towards Youri Tielemans for that central midfield role, just because of the valuation he's at the moment because of his contract situation. We could get him for around 25-30 million pounds. I just think it's too good of an opportunity in today's market to ignore. And I think he'd be a great player for us. He's been great since he joined the Premier League, and Leicester, been a consistent player for them. Obviously, maybe dipped a little bit in terms of form last season, but the whole Leicester team did, in fairness. That hasn't changed my opinion on him. I think it'd be a great addition. For the wing role, it's tricky because, obviously, realistically and affordable, it mentioned there, and there aren't too many, wingers out there that you could get for a good price. With Saka already operating on the right-hand side, Martinelli, performing consistently well on the left. Will we go for a household name who's going to look to play every week? I'm not sure we will. It could be, a matter of replacing Nicolas Pepe with someone who can play on the left and right, a rotational option that plays every other week. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, in a dream world, we mentioned Leroy Sané there. That would be an incredible bit of business and a top signing. Potentially realistic because obviously he doesn't play every week at Bayern, and there's that connection with Arteta there. Jared Bowen at West Ham's been mentioned, and I know for a fact that a lot of Arsenal fans that I know of and have been in contact with, they're not keen on the idea, and I'm a little bit surprised by that because I think he's been a great addition to West Ham. He scores goals, he provides goals, he has a lot of creativity and attacking threat in his game, and I think we could do a lot worse personally. But again, he's going to be probably wanting to play every week. Cody Gakpo, another name mentioned and linked with Arsenal before. I like him, but he primarily operates on the left-hand side. So I don't know, a few choices, a few options out there, TC. But again, I suppose it really just depends on where Arsenal see this potential winger, playing and how they are going to use him, because you could go for a star name that like your Sané or Moussa Diaby, for example, for big money, and they're going to play most weeks. But like I say, with Martinelli, doing really well, and Saka obviously untouchable at the moment and undroppable, it wouldn't surprise me to if Arsenal go down the route of bringing in a rotational option. What do you think?
I struggle with the wide player, particularly. I just don't know who makes the most sense, because the wide players that are of starting quality, you're looking upwards of £50 million, to get them. Jared Bowen, as you mentioned, that's an £80 million player. I think West Ham aren't going to look for anything less than that. They got him under contract. They were asking for more than 100 million for Declan Rice. Why would they accept anything less than 70, 80 for Jared Bowen? Moussa Diaby, Cody Gakpo, you're going to have to spend upwards of 30 to 40 million on Gakpo. And whilst I like him, he's more of a left-sided player. And I think if you're going to buy a wide player, you're probably looking at the right-hand side more than the left-hand side.
Sorry, TC, I was just going to say, it wouldn't surprise me, just I remembered another name, Marco Asensio at Real Madrid. It wouldn't surprise me if Arsenal go down that sort of route, because he won't be expensive. He's got experience. He's still at a good age where he's got a lot to offer. Versatile as well. We know he can play sort of in a central midfield role and out wide. So, it wouldn't surprise me. Obviously, depending on what happens to other players, of course, and the route obviously Arsenal are wanting to go down, it wouldn't surprise me if they go down that sort of route. And again, though, saying that, as I mentioned earlier on, the pursuit of Rafinha to me was an indication that Arsenal, if there's a player out there available and on the market, will go for a top quality signing in that area. So I don't know. Like you say, it's hard, isn't it? It's a difficult one to call at the minute.
Yeah, look, I think with someone like Asensio, he's just too similar to Vieira. Like, I just think he's too similar to him. I could absolutely agree with you and see them going for him, and we've been linked to him a lot. And, he's no different in terms of the way in which he positionally, when you think about someone like Lucas Paquetá and Asensio aren't wingers, but they can play in wide positions and have done. They're kind of those wide playmakers, if you will, at times. Paquetá is more central, more of a second striker, number 10, and can play in a number 8 position if you wanted to, more so than Asensio that is more playing in a wide area. But neither of them are wingers. They are attacking midfielders that can play in those wide areas if you would need them to. So maybe we would go for Asensio, but I just see him as too similar to Vieira, and I don't necessarily see him as wildly better than Vieira, if at all, right now. So I'm not sure that's enough of a player to go for. But yeah, central midfield has absolutely got to be addressed for me before the window ends. If we don't bring in a central midfielder, And, you know, even though Zinchenko can play there, for me, I wanted to. Zinchenko can take one of those roles, sure. But we absolutely have to bring in someone who is an upgrade on our central midfields before the window ends. If that's Paquetá playing a left 8, fine. If that's Tielemans, fine. These are players for me that do upgrade on what we have, and I'd be very happy with either one of those. But for me, if we prioritise a wide player over a central midfielder, I would be frustrated, I think, by that as a decision before the window ends. Thank you, everybody that's tuned in today. Sorry we're not being able to go through all of your questions. We tried to tackle as many of them as we feasibly could do. Just quickly on Anguza's question, is Gabriel Magalhaes going to leave Arsenal this summer? I can fairly confidently tell you no. Juventus with the main team in for him, and they are looking pretty close to signing Bremer from Torino, I think, is where he's at. So, yeah, I don't think that they're going to be going after Gabriel. Now they've been turned down, to our understanding, which is really, really good news. But, yes, if you want to tune into the channel a lot more, please do. We've got lots more content coming out today. As I said, there are interviews up with the likes of Simon Barkowski from the Manchester Evening News about Zinchenko. We've got interviews with the players coming out as well. Gabriel Jesus, Aaron Ramsdale, the like as well are going to be up on the channel, if not already, and more content to come too. Aston Max interview is going to be up on the channel a little bit later on today as well. So lots to come on the channel. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure that you do indeed turn those notifications on so you never miss a show. Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate your time as always.
Thank you, TC. Pleasure as always, mate. And of course, thank you to everyone tuning in. Hope everyone has a great day and they can stay cool.
Indeed, absolutely. It's going to be another scorcher. So do try and stay cool and turn those fans. Advice I can give is don't open your windows. Keep the blinds down, windows closed. Keep it cool inside because it's hotter out there than it is in here. So windows open do nada to help. We will see you again very, very soon. And as always, keep following us down the Arsenal way.
49, 49, undefeated. Playing for the Arsenal way.